I have stolen princesses back from sleeping barrow kings. I burned down the town of Trebon. I have spent the night with Florian and left with both my sanity and my life. I was expelled from the university at a younger age than most people are allowed in. I tread paths by moonlight that others fear to speak of during the day. I have talked to gods, loved women, and written songs that make the minstrels weep. You may have heard of me. Name of the Wind, Book 1 of the Kingkiller Chronicles by Patrick Rothfuss, is one of the most popular fantasy novels of the last 15-20 years. At least if you go by Goodreads ratings. It was published in 2007 and has 817,000 ratings. That's the same number of ratings as The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie, and The Lies of Locke Lamora combined. I bring all that up just to say this book has been read a lot and it has been reviewed a lot. I'm pretty sure anything that can be said about the book has already been said. So you're not going to get anything earth-shattering from my review or any hot takes. Honestly, I don't think you can have a hot take on a book that has been reviewed this much. Because you didn't like it? Well, guess what? There's 100,000 other people that thought it was average or below. Now there is 500,000 that thought it was fantastic and a bunch of people in between. So you won't get anything new except my own personal perspective. If you're like me and managed to go this long without reading the book and don't know anything about it, because I also didn't know much about the book before reading it, the story opens up in a small town with an innkeeper named Kote, K-O-T-E. You quickly get the sense that there is more to Kote than he's letting on. He has a mysterious past, and it's stated that he would be in trouble if people found where he was at. Eventually, a person known as the Chronicler shows up at the inn and cannot be persuaded that Kote isn't truly Kvothe, K-V-O-T-H-E. The Chronicler says that he was traveling with an old friend of Kvothe, and they had heard a rumor that he was in this small town. The Chronicler eventually manipulates Kvothe into telling his story by bringing up rumors of what people say. Kvothe doesn't mind the rumors about himself, seeing as how he created them, but when Chronicler brings up that people say there was a girl, Kvothe snaps. What do they know? What does anyone know about her? To which the Chronicler responds, only what they've been told, implying that if Kvothe wants people to not speak lies about her, he's going to have to give them their story and tell the truth. Kvothe relents and says, it's going to take 3 days to tell my story. Name of the Wind is day 1 of that story. When he starts his story, he goes back to when he was a child traveling with his parents, and very early on you can see he is a prodigy. He's a very gifted child. A lot of your enjoyment or dislike of this book is going to come from, did you like Kvothe? Or did you think he was an unbearable character? You spend pretty much the whole time with him, so if you don't like him, you most likely won't like this book. Some people say that things come too easily to him. I personally didn't feel that way. I thought he was a very hard worker, and when you add his natural brilliance with the amount of work he puts in, he's going to be able to accomplish quite a lot. With that said, he's also a child and teenager during this portion of the story, and he makes a lot of stupid decisions. The best way I can put it is that he's trying to win every battle. He's trying to always have the last word, and committing to all these little battles, he doesn't realize he's losing the war and hurting his own prospects in the process. Others also feel that he is an unreliable narrator, that he's trying to make himself look better. Now, he could be an unreliable narrator, which I think actually adds some intrigue to the story, trying to decide, can you trust what he's telling you or not? But at the same time, I don't think he's necessarily trying to make himself look good, because there are several examples where he makes himself look bad and he says, I wish I acted differently, but I didn't. This is what I did. So my personal opinion of Kvothe is I liked him, which, based on what I said earlier, since I liked Kvothe, chances are I like the book as well. One other thing that is always brought up whenever I hear anyone talk about Name of the Wind is Patrick Rothfuss's writing style. And I was surprised how much I enjoyed it. it lived up to the hype. It's a very poetic writing style. And he definitely took a lot of time to make sure that every word he put in here was intentional. The world building in this story is also phenomenal. You spend a lot of different time at several different locations, and each location is very well developed and very unique. He even spends quite a bit of time talking about money and Kvothe just trying to get enough to get by for the day, to have food and find a place to stay, and how much it costs to go to school and what he has to sacrifice in order to stay in the academy, and taking out loans and interest rates. So it's very well developed. One thing I like in my fantasy novels that you don't get a ton of in this is action. This is book 1 of the Kingkiller Chronicles, and let me tell you, no kings get killed in this book. So if that's what you're expecting, you're gonna be disappointed. This is a slower paced story. It honestly reminds me a lot of the Farseer trilogy, where if you don't like Fitz, you're probably not gonna like the Farseer trilogy. And that's another one that doesn't have a lot of action, but I felt it did have more of a climax than what Name of the Wind had. It almost seemed like it was all build up to me, which again, it's just the start of his story. He has day 2 and day 3 of storytelling to come to, so I wouldn't expect this to be the climax, but I do want each book to have a climax, and then I didn't feel that in here. The other critique I had is that when Kvothe is spending time with Denna, it tends to drag on, which part of that is, okay, teenage boy with the girl that he's in love with, or at least thinks he's in love with. He's not focused on anything else. He's just focused on being with her. So I get it, but as a reader, it got tiring spending so much time with her. I was more interested in what he was doing when he was not with her. But those times that he was not with Denna, I was fully engrossed in the story from page 1 all the way to the end. It's just when he spent too much time with Denna, it would pull me out of the story. But as soon as he left, or more likely she left, I was right back in it again. I forgot to mention the magic system. So I am a fan of hard magic systems, and this magic system, it definitely has rules, but you don't necessarily know all of them or all the details. Kvothe is telling a story of him learning it, so things that just click to him, he's not necessarily going to explain to you. If you were telling people about your time in high school or going through a college class, you're not going to teach the whole class. You're going to explain your experience learning it. So there are rules to the magic system, but you as the reader don't know all of them, which does allow him to kind of magic his way out of situations at times. But I do think it's cool that at its core, this magic system is based on sheer willpower and mental strength. I think that is a really cool magic system. Again, I wish I knew more of the rules so that he couldn't just magic his way out of it, but I like this magic system a lot more than I would normally like a soft magic system. Overall, I give this 4.5 stars. It was really just that time spent with Denna that pulled it out of the 5-star range for me. So I guess you could say I'm a bit disappointed. I was hoping this would be my favorite book of the year, and it's not going to be up there. But right now it is in my top 5 and could potentially stay in the top 5 all year. So I did really enjoy it, and my rating out of 100 was 86, which puts it right around Stones of Light, which is book 2 of the Threadlight series by Zach Argyle, and Age of War, which is book 3 of Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. If you're going to pick this up, I highly recommend paying very close attention to what words are used, especially when it comes to names and numbers. Names and numbers have a lot of power in this world. So nothing when it comes to those is done by accident. That wraps up my review. Let me know in the comments if you've read Name of the Wind and what you thought of it, whether you liked it or not. And if you haven't read Name of the Wind, are you planning on it, or are you understandably waiting for if or when book 3 is released? So until next time, bye.